Welcome to Awesome Code. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my video. In this video, we will learn JavaScript. JavaScript is a high-level interpreted object-oriented programming language. JavaScript is used as a client-side programming language that is to execute in the browser in the front end. JavaScript is a scripting or programming language that allows us to implement complex features on web pages, including displaying timely content updates, interactive maps, animated 2D or 3D graphics, and scrolling videos. Our browser display HTML pages with CSS styling, and JavaScript work together with those technologies to add interactivity to the page. Using JavaScript, we can make our page dynamic and create things like web applications. In other words, it represents a way to add programming logic to our web page. So, what's HTML? HTML is the markup language that we use to structure and give meaning to our web content. For example, defining paragraphs, headings, and data tables, or embedding images and videos in the page. And what is CSS? CSS is language of style rules that we use to apply styling to our HTML content. For example, setting background colors, fonts, and laying out our content in multiple columns. And we will also learn about JavaScript. JavaScript is a scripting language that enables us to create dynamically updated content, control multimedia, animate images, and pretty much everything else. Since JavaScript is the main client-side programming language run in the browser, it's an essential technology to learn as a web developer. We can also use in the server-side backend by using Node.js. We can use JavaScript to create backend full stack web application using Node.js. We can use a web browser, Google Chrome. It has powerful tools that we can utilize while we do web development, which include JavaScript. Using JavaScript in the console of Chrome to access the JavaScript developer console, we can execute JavaScript code and evaluate it directly. We need to open our Google Chrome browser. We can use interactive console of Google Chrome for JavaScript by clicking over here and then more tools. Then developer tools, or you can use the shortcut. And here we can go under the console tab. I will just clear my console by right clicking over here and click on clear console. And over here we can test our JavaScript code by using console.log, and this will be our string hello world in double quotes and then semicolon, and hit enter. Semicolon is not required, but it's a good practice to use. I'll just hit enter and you get this hello world message printed to our console. We can use JavaScript inside a HTML file or in external file. JavaScript in a separate file. To use JavaScript in a separate file, we can write HTML code in one file and JavaScript code in another file. And we are going to include that JavaScript file in our HTML file. So That way, when we open the HTML page in the browser, it will also run our JavaScript code that was included in HTML. To write HTML, CSS, or JavaScript code, we want to install a code editor application. One of the most popular tool now these days is Studio Code, and I will use that one. You can use editor of your choice. This is my Visual Studio Code, and I have created index.html file. Let's see an example of including an external JavaScript file in our HTML document. So this file will have very basic HTML tags such as HTML and then head, and also I want to close this HTML. And also I will add more tags between these. And inside head, we are going to have one more tag, title tag, and this will be title of our page, JavaScript introduction. I will use the HTML script tag element with the source attribute, which will specify the path to the JS file. I will also create that JS file after writing this index.html code. So over here we have script tag and also the source set to the file name. Our source attribute value is I will name our JavaScript script.js. So here's a script.js file, and we need to end the script tag. This is inside our head tag. I'll just want to remove this line. Now I will include a script.js file in the same folder where I have index.html. So I will create one more file. And I will name this file script.js. In my script.js, I will just write a single line, the same one we tried on our Google Chrome console. So this will be console.log, and it will print a hello world message. Hello world. And we just need a semicolon at the end of our statement. Now we can test our index.html, open that file, and I can go to my folder, and over here just drop this file on our Google Chrome, and it will open that file for us. So this is opening index.html file, and we cannot see anything because it is printing to our console. So we need to open our console on Google Chrome, go to Developer Tools, from More Tools, and under the console tab, we can see Hello World message printed. We can also use the script element to write code directly between the tags in the HTML code. So over here, so let's go back to our HTML, and don't need this one, and go over here, and inside this I will add the body tag after the head tag, and in a body tag I will write some heading. This is our heading tag, welcome. And now I will replace this one, and this tag need to be closed. I forgot to close that, but it still worked. But I need to remove this one, the script tag. We are not including external file. Now we are going to use the script tag to uh, write code directly inside our HTML. So inside our starting script tag and ending script tag, I will write a JavaScript code. So this will be same one, console.log, just different text. Welcome to Awesome Code. Now I will refresh our file inside Chrome, and let's see what we get in our console. Now we get welcome to Awesome Code message, and over here this is the inside the heading tag of our HTML. So we have seen the both ways how to use JavaScript in our HTML page. We can use code directly between the tags in HTML, and also include the external JavaScript file. Now we are familiar with the JavaScript and how we can write it. We can finally start learning about the language and the syntax itself. So first we are going to start with the basics of JavaScript. First is data types. Every programming language has the ability to differentiate between categories of data, which varies from language to language. For example, it can differentiate between a number and a word. In JavaScript, we have primitive data types. First, we will learn about primitive data types such as numbers. It represents whole and fractional numbers, and also positive or negative numbers. For example, let's go back to our code, and I'm just going to write the numbers now. Number examples are like this: 5 and 8.5 minus 20. All these fall into the number data type in JavaScript. We can also do math with numbers. For example, let's try. Okay, go to our console. So we can execute the expressions. Over here, I will just clear our terminal first. Let's try the addition. 10 plus 20, and you can see the result is 30. We can also try division, just 2 divided by 5. And we are also going to use Modulus Operator, also known as our remainder operator. So for example, to add a code comment which won't get executed when the code is run, we can write 2 forward slashes and then the comment text. For example, over here, I can do it like this. Just comment, and then I can write this is a comment, and nothing get printed or executed. Now we are going to talk about string in JavaScript. String basically represent text data. Let's see example of strings. For example, we can use double quote to surround the text. Hello world. This example of a string. We can also use single quotes. For example, single quote and 500, and then the end of a single quote. So this one is also a string. So when we surround this number with a single quote or double quote, it will become a string instead of a number. We can join strings using the plus operator. Let's try that. This is one string, and this is a plus operator, and then we have hello world, and now you can see here, this is those strings are concatenated. So when we use the plus operator with string in JavaScript, it concatenates them, versus when we use it with the math numbers, it will add those numbers, do the math addition. If we want to use codes inside of string, we can use a backslash to escape them. Here, for example, we have hello, and we want to use a double quote in this string for how are you, and here's the string end, so we need to escape these double quotes with a backslash. String also have a length property, which we can use to find the number of characters inside of the string. I will just clear the terminal. Clear our console. And over here, we are going to use length with our string. So this will be our same space code and dot length. And here is the length for it. We can also access individual string character at a specific index. The count starts from 0. So this A is at index 0, and S is on index 1, and so on. So let's try to access the first element. This will be our string sim. And you can see it is the first character. And now I will access the second character of the string at index 1, that's s. Boolean data type has only two values, true or false. So Boolean values can either be true or false. Then we have null. Null is a value that represents a way to express nothingness in JavaScript. Undefined is similar, but it means that something was not yet defined. In other words, that something a variable doesn't have a value yet. Now we are going to talk about variables and constants. We use variable to store data in our program. A variable is a container that has a name, and inside of that container we store some bit of data. To create a variable in JavaScript, we can use the let keyword. To create or declare a variable in JavaScript, this is the syntax. For example, let, and this will be name. The variable is declared, but there was no value assigned. Therefore, it has the undefined value over here. We can store some data into it by using the assignment operator. Let's try let uh, first, and here I'm going to set it to a sim. Let's define the variable again, name, and then set a value to first name, and this will be name set to first name. You can also combine the variable declaration and assignment into a single line the way we did before. For example, over here, let let now we have a number variable price set to 200. We can also use template strings to embed variable values and other expressions. We surround a template string with the backtick, uh, backcode character, and embed expression with this syntax. Let's try it. This one over here. This is our syntax, dollar sign and curly braces. Let's see example of how we are going to use in our code. So let's define our variable by using let, and here is the YouTube variable, and I'm going to set its value to my channel, same code, and then I'm going to use console to print out the value, console with the message. This will be console log, and here we are going to use a backtick. So this will be like welcome, and dollar sign and curly braces, and inside will be our variable YouTube. This one over here, I'll select from here, and then again the backtick. This will be after our string ends, and close the function. and hit enter. And we get this message, hello, welcome awesome code printed. In older JavaScript, you may find that the keyword var was used to declare a variable instead of let. So if you see a few codes like this, var x set to 10. The var keyword is very similar to the let keyword, but there are some differences. Need to clear our console again. Let's talk about constants. To declare a constant, which can be looked as a variable, which doesn't change after initially assigning a value, uh, we can use the const keyword. For example, over here, const here, or I will use const here set to 20, 21. And now I'm going to try to change the value of here to 2020. So we get this error, assignment to constant variable. So we cannot change the value of a constant variable. That's why we get this error. To name variables in JavaScript, the convention is to use camel case. That means the first letter of a variable name should always be a lowercase. And if we have another word, we uppercase the first letter of the new word. So for example, we have this variable defined with a let, and variable name is my. So the first word, first character is lowercase, and then we have another word, my name. So I'm using uppercase for the first character of the second word. Now we will learn about control flow, Boolean logic, comparison operators. Boolean logic involves writing expression that evaluated true or false Boolean values. A comparison operator compares its operands and returns a logic value based on whether the comparison is true or false. Let's see example of a comparison operators. Let's define our variable x. Let's clear the console again. And over here we have a variable x, and its value is set to 5. And we are going to, we already used that x before, so I'm just gonna change the variable to y and set to 10. Okay, and let's try comparison operators. This is greater than sign, x greater than 20. We get the false because x is less than. Let's try greater than or equal operator. So that is like, I'm still using x, I need to use y. So y is greater than or equals to what we have here, 10. So I will check with 10. We get the true result because it is checking over here greater than or equal. It's not greater than 10 but equal to 10. That's why it returned true. Now we are going to try less than operator. So this less than operator, like this: y less than 50. It is true. Y is less than 50. Now try less than or equal. So y less than or equal 25. The result is true because the less than condition is true for this one. We have set y to value of 10, so it is less than 25. Let me clear the console again. And now we are going to check if they are equal. So the y, this operator is a double equal sign to check. And the value was 10, so I'm going to add a 10 over here, and we get the true. And now try to check for not equal. So we are gonna do y not equals to 10. For this we get the false because they are equal. Now we are going to check equal value and type. That means if they have the same type. In y we have int value, so we are going to use 3 equal sign to check for, and also the type matches of these both values. So over here I will match again with the 10. First we got that true, now it's matching the type also, and we get the false because this is a string, and we have a number in variable y, 10. Now we are going to check for not equal value or not equal type. This would be y not double equal with the 10, and we get true this time. One point to note over here is this double equality check, which performs automatically type, quotient and compare only values. And the one over here with 3 equal signs, it's also known as strict equality check, where both values and data types have to match. Now we will learn about logical operators. Logical operators are typically used with Boolean logic values. When they return a Boolean value. However, the AND operator, which look like this, 2 ampersand signs, and our OR operator, it should look like this, 2 bars. The and OR operator actually return the value of one of the specified operands. So if these operators are used with non-Boolean values, they may return a non-Boolean value. With the AND operator, both sides have to evaluate it true, so the whole expression is true. On the other hand, with the OR operator, one side has to evaluate it true, so the whole expression is true. The NOT operator, this one over here, will simply reverse the Boolean value. Let's see example of logical operators. So let's have 2 variables, a whose value is set to 5, and then I will have another variable b value set to 20, and we are going to use logical operators. So first I'm going to use the AND operator, which requires both to be true. So this would be a, which is 5 less than 30, and we have a is not equal to 5. So over here we have one condition is true, but we get the result false because we need both to be true. A is less than 30 because A has a value of 5, which is true. But over here we say A not equals to 5, which is false. So we get one condition false. So the whole expression result into or evaluate to false. And now we are going to use our OR operator. So with our operator we can try b greater than 20, which is false. However, and here we have OR operator, and then we are going to check if a is strictly equals to 5, also checking the data type over here, and we get the true result because I need to have only one condition to be true or evaluate to be true. Now we are going to see the not operator. So here not a is strict equality check with the b, and we get the result to be true. Now we are going to learn about conditionals. Conditionals allow us to make decision in our code. It's how we add logic to our programming. In any programming language, there is a need to carry out actions and make decisions depending on different values. Using conditionals allow us to execute different codes based on specific values. The most common conditional statement in JavaScript is the if-else statement. Let's see example of a if-else statement. Clear the terminal again, the console, and define our variable age. Set its value to be 18, and now we are going to use if condition. If age is less than 18, then we are going to do console log a message, console.log you cannot vote. And I need to add yeah, it's okay. So now I will add else we are going to print console.log you are old enough to vote. And we get this statement executed. You are old enough to vote. Now we are going to learn about loops. Loops allow us to execute repetitive tasks in our code. In other words, they allow us to execute code repeatedly for a set amount of times, iterations. For example, if you want to print all the numbers from 1 to 100, we can use a loop which start from 0 and end at 100. We don't need to write 100 line of code where we manually print each number. We can just use a loop for this. First, we are going to learn about for loop. One of the most common loops in JavaScript is the for loop. Its syntax is something like this. For example, for this is initializer. I will just write in it for initializer. Then we have exit condition, and then we have final expression. And then the code to run here. Now see a concrete example of for loop. So we are going to start our for loop. Let I set its value to 1, and we are going to print up to 100. So I less than or equal to 100, and then I plus plus. And if you want to print from 0 to 99, then you are going to change this value to 0 and make this just less than 100, not equal. Equal sign should be removed after that. And over here we are going to print those numbers. Console select from here, console.log, and then I so I get incremented on each iteration. So first it will be 1, then 2, and so on. Let's try this loop. And we get those values printed for us up to 100. This is pretty nice. Need to clear our console. Now we will learn about while loops. It works similarly to the for loop, but it has a slightly different structure. It's used to repeatedly execute code while a specific condition is true. So let's see example of it. Let's have another variable. Let j set to 0. We are going to print number same like we did it in our for loop 1 to 100. And so I will start with the 1, and we have a while loop, and while j is less than or equals to 100, here we are checking the condition. Then we are going to print the number console.log, and the number is in values in j variable. And now we are going to increment our j variable inside our while loop. And just curly braces. Everything looks okay. This one is a j. I already used I, so I'm going to use j now. J looks okay. And we have numbers up to 100 printed. So just clear console. Now we will learn about functions. Functions represent an essential concept in programming. They allow us to store a piece of code that does a specific task inside of a defined block and then call that code at a later point whenever we need to execute that code. Let's see example of function. To define a function, we use this keyword over here, function, and I will name my function, say hello, and this is start and end of function. And inside my function I will do console.log and just say hello. And now we can call this function. To call this function we are going to use its name. So this is say hello. And we get this message printed hello. Now we are going to learn about parameters and argument for functions. We can make our functions take inputs and produce a different result based on them. When defining a function, we can also define the parameters that it accepts between the parentheses of the function definition, separated by commas. For example, let's define our function. Square. It takes a number and print the square of that number. So this will be num1, and inside our function we are going to do console.log and num1 multiply with num1. In this example, the square e is missing over here. The square function accepts a parameter. This is the parameter num1. When we will call square, we need to pass an argument which correspond to the defined parameter for the function. So over here we need, when we are going to call square, and here we need to pass in the value such as 10, and this is the argument which correspond to the defined parameter for the function. Let's try it, and we get 100, the square of 10. The return keyword, every function can return a value after it completes execution. That allows our function to programmatically output a value that we can use in our logic further. Assign the function call to a variable and similar. To specify a value that our function should output, we can use the return keyword, which immediately finish the function execution when triggered and return the value. And we can assign that return value to some variable. Let's see example of it. So I'm just gonna write another function sum, which will sum two numbers, and 1 and 2. And instead of printing to console, we are going to return the sum. Return, this one is n2, number 1 and number 2. And here we are going to return sum of this number, n1 plus n2. And then we are going to call this function by passing in num1 and num2, 10 and 5. This function will return a value, so we can save that value to a variable, and that variable will be let result, and then I can print the result. Console.log and print the result. And we get 15, the sum of those numbers. Now we are going to learn about arrays in JavaScript. Arrays are used to store multiple values in a single variable. For example, we can store a list of names in an array of values instead of creating a new variable for each name. Arrays can hold any type of JavaScript values. We can access each value inside the array individually using the index number of the array element, like the similar way we did access the element of a string. The index start at 0. The syntax of array in JavaScript look like this over here. Let me clear the console again. For example, we have my array const my r, and the values are enclosed in square brackets, which denotes an array, and a comma separated values. So this will be such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the first element is at index 0, second one, and the third is on 2, and so on. Let's try to print the third element. This will be console dot log, and then we are going to use array name myr and the index location. So I want to print 3, so this will be at index 2. And we get the value 3 printed. Array comes with the built-in methods that we can use when dealing with this data type. Some of the common ones are push. Push used to add an element to the end of array. Let's try to add one more element to our my array by using my dot push and pass in 7, or that one. And now we are going to print the element 7. It will be on index 6 of my array. And we get this 7 printed. The pop removes the last element from an array and returns the element. So let's try to remove that. Our element my array dot pop. It will remove the last element and also return that element. So I will save in last. And now I'm going to print console.log the last. And the last element was 7. So we get the value in our last variable by using the pop. It moved that value and return into this variable. We can print the whole array console.log by passing in my and we can see that element and the value is removed from our array. And shift add to the front of an array, and unshift remove the first element in an array. I will just clear the console again, and we can use for loop to iterate over an array. We can use the array length property as the condition, so it can loop through all the items in an array. So I'm going to use for let z equals to 0. Z is less than my array's length and z plus plus. Then I'm going to print each element console dot log and my array and the index. And here are the values of our array. We can also use a built-in method for each to iterate over each element inside of an array. Let's see how to do that. So we have this array. Let's clear the console, and with our array var for each, and we can pass a function definition callback function as a single argument to our for each method, which will automatically calls for each element of the array. So over here for each function number, and inside our function we are going to print each element console.log number, and we get those elements printed. Just clear. Now we are going to learn about objects in JavaScript. Objects are data type in JavaScript which allow us to store key value pairs in a single entity An object has properties keys associated with it. A property of an object can be explained as a variable that is attached to the object. Let's create a object const, and this would be a customer, and we will have a first name or just a name, and its value set to sim, and then we will have a customer email and its value to some email, some mail at gmail.com. And now we can we can access the object property using the dot notation and the square bracket notation. So we're gonna try both of those. So we can use console.log and the name of the object name customer. Then yeah, we are going to use dot, and I want to access the property name, so I will use customer dot name. Let's print it out as value, and its value is awesome. And we can also use this way, console.log. And now I'm going to print out email with using object name customer, and in square brackets the email. And we get our email printed. Now we are going to learn about DOM manipulation in JavaScript. DOM, which is a document object model, is the interface that allows us to use JavaScript with HTML and CSS. The browser turns every HTML element into a JavaScript object which is stored in the document object that we can access in our JavaScript code. The basic process is to first select the element that we want to manipulate with JavaScript. We can also use built-in JS selector methods. Let's go to our HTML page and access our H1 element. I have this H1 element in my HTML page. We can access this, write some script inside a script tag. Const h1, we can access it by using document.query selector, and here we are going to pass in inside our query selector h1. Now we have access to h1 element. We can change the h1 element color to red. Let's try that. h1 dot style dot color property set to red. And let us refresh our index.html page and check if the color changed for our h1 elements. And now you can see the color changed to red. I hope you like my video. Please subscribe and like my video. Keep supporting me, and thank you for watching.